I always like to begin with the eyes, then I have a starting point. And I've never done a portrait on pastel, so this is my first try at it. And I'm basically using the same techniques I do in my acrylic portraits, where I put in the highlights first. So I'm just putting in my highlights, and it's a layering process. Um, yeah, usually in my acrylics, I paint the background first and then lay the face on top. But since we have a colored background with the pastel paper, it's kind of already done. And here I have laid in my highlights. Now I'm adding some random color. And this particular one, I wanted to do a face that was really colorful and crazy. So that's what you're seeing here. And here I'm sort of outlining the lips, and I will build up color on those. And adding a little bit of pink to the eyes. It's really amazing with pastels because you can get your fingers in it and you can use tools, use Q-tips, and there's just all kinds of things. And I had ordered some new pastel pencils for when I started this piece. I did not have any white pastel or like in a pencil form or black. No black pastel except for in the big chunks of it, and that's pretty hard to get in there and do those tiny spots. So my finished piece was actually completed a week later. So this is kind of before the completion here. So you can see I'm using a dark gray to outline the eyes where I would have preferred a black. So here I'm just doing some shading on the eyes. It's always fun to start with your eyes. And also, when you're working on pastel, put a piece of glassine paper uh, over top of where your hand is. Fortunately, I'm able to not have my hand sitting on the piece, but you start to smudge your pastels if your arm ends up in it. So you have to be really careful. My next piece I'm going to try to do on my easel so it'll be upright, because I've watched a few people on YouTube and they do their pastels on an upright easel. So that also helps to keep your hand out of the pastel. So here I'm adding a little bit more color to the lips, and it's just lots of layers. And of course, I have to speed it up as well. Lots of fiddling. It's kind of a fun medium to play with. You feel like a little kid again because you're using your fingers and you're just covered in chalk. I keep a damp rag beside me when I start rubbing the fingers in there. And what I just did was take it off the table and blow off the dust, because you do get the dust on there. So don't rub your dust off with your fingers, just blow it off. I haven't had to do it too much. You see, I just leaned forward and blew off the residue right there. It was in my way. And then just putting in highlights again in the eyes. I think I'd like to try and do a ocean portrait. I've seen other people do them, and the colors are just amazing. That's the wonderful thing about pastels. And when you do a portrait in pastel and you've got colored paper behind you, you don't necessarily have to do cover every piece of the paper like you do when you're working on a white watercolor or a canvas. So yeah, it's kind of nice. Here I'm using this little tool. Now I've never used that little tool before, so that was an interesting experience. It didn't quite react the way I was thinking it would, so I was a bit challenged here, but they're kind of cool. It's this little plastic thing, and you put these covers on it, and then you can smoosh it around a little bit. They have a few different shapes. Here I'm playing with that little thing again. Now you can see my pastels on the left. The cool thing about pastels is they seem to last forever because the pastels on the left were left over from my shop in Hawaii, which I sold in 1994, I believe. And I kept lots of supplies. So I have a ton of pastels. And that's basically the reason I thought, well, I'll try using pastels because I kept them all. And they're Holbein and they're just amazing. The majority are just amazing, gorgeous colors. So, well, we'll see if I learn how to do this. So now I'm enhancing the eyes and I'm just putting these fine little stripes on there. And I watched somebody on YouTube who did amazing eyes. That's why I got back into doing this. It was like, holy crap, beautiful. And she did a big, large eye. So that's why my previous video was an eye, because I was studying her and I thought I can do that. So I basically used the same process that I used on watercolors and my acrylics to do the eyes, and it turned out amazing. It was just beautiful. So check out my previous video, and it will show you. So here I'm just throwing some blue for the hair. As you probably know, my last couple of portraits actually had blue hair. Actually, the last three portraits. I don't know what it is about me and blue. But yeah, I just wanted to throw something down and see what it is. This piece is an experiment, and it's a full sheet of pastel paper. And here I'm using a fan brush to kind of spread it around. Apparently, I didn't like that. I really like getting my fingers in the mess. You know, some people like to put rubber gloves on, and yeah, I don't. So I just keep that damp rag beside me and I wipe my fingers off every once in a while and then just dry my fingers before I touch the piece. And there I'm shaking off the powder again because I really stirred it all up. So anyways, thanks for watching, and check out my other videos, and I will have some classes on my website coming up soon.